Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brad. This is Mike. We're here for episode 3 of North of the Six, and we've got a very exciting episode to talk to you guys about today. We're going to preview a lot of baseball today, including the Toronto Blue Jays, the American League East, and also some World Series predictions as well. We'll also be covering a little topic about the San Francisco 49ers in the NFL, and it's very exciting. Baseball season is here, eh, Mike?
It has arrived. Turning the calendar over to April tomorrow. Jays starting the season off in New York. A nice afternoon game. So if you got to tell the boss you're leaving work after lunch, go right ahead. Catch the Jays at 1 o'clock. Exciting times for baseball fans, Blue Jays fans. It's spring has sprung. Weather's getting warmer. It's really exciting to see the boys in blue back. Well, not back in Toronto, but at least back playing in the regular season. We're going to start with a Blue Jays question, right? Something we've been discussing the last couple of days, Brad and I. We've talked about the offense, how potent it is. We kind of compared to that 2015-2016 season. Can they match those numbers? So we talked about how good the offense is. We'll continue to talk about that. But the question today is, who, if anyone, is going to emerge as the Blue Jays' number 2 starter in that rotation behind Hyun-Jin Ryu?
Yeah, so that's very tricky. I'll start this one off. I monitored spring training closely, and we know that Hyun-Jin Ryu is definitely the clear-cut number 1 guy, but that number 2 spot is quite tricky to dissect. I'm going to go with Robbie Ray. I know Nate Pearson's the popular choice, but Robbie Ray had a really good spring. He had an ERA under 2. He had 18 strikeouts in 13 2/3 innings. I know he had a really bizarre accident with, falling down the stairs with his kid and having a little elbow injury. They've been told that he'll be expected to be back in the lineup by mid-April, hopefully sooner. But
I think he's been hanging out with Meister Stewart a little bit.
Yeah. Jays fans, if you can recall, Meister Stewart had an incident like that several years ago. And yeah, it was just quite bizarre. It seems like these types of injuries only happen to the Blue Jays. We're hoping more of these won't happen come April 1st, and that remains to be seen. With Robbie Ray, though, when he comes into the lineup, I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he's going to take that number 2 spot. He's a southpaw pitcher. He's on a 1-year deal right now, so he's going to be playing on a little bit of a prove-it mode right now to try to get his next contract. And he did look solid in the spring. So, I'm going to go with Robbie Ray on this one.
You talk about his spring training numbers. Very, very impressive. But there's one thing you are forgetting, that it is still spring training. Pitchers are historically ahead of batters this time of year, right? Batters don't start getting hot until usually June, July sometimes, even halfway through the season. So yeah, Robbie Ray's numbers look amazing in spring training. I'm also going to look at his regular season numbers from the last couple of years. ERA north of 5 over the last 2 years combined. He was awful in 2020, walks way too many guys. You talk about he's a lefty, he's throwing harder this spring, blah, 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 blah. It's all I ever hear in spring. Them hyping guys up that historically are not that good. So to me, Robbie Ray's not in the number 2 picture. He's probably not even in the number 3 picture. To me, the answer simply is, I don't know. To me, looking at this rotation, the Jays don't have anyone that can fill in a number 2 role. They have a bunch of 4s and 5s. Tanner Roark, that guy won't make it past June 1st.
You do know the question is, who will emerge? Who's the most likely to emerge as the number 2 starter? I don't know is not an answer.
Well, what am I supposed to say? Who's the guy who's they're just going to throw in the number 2 slot?
Sure.
Who's the guy that's going to have maybe a plus 500 record with an ERA still probably over 4?
Sure.
Oh, I can list all those guys then if you want. Robbie Ray will do it. Tanner Roark will do it. Tanner Roark's going to throw 220 innings. He's that number 2 guy we throw out there every 5th day, but he just gets his ass kicked every single time he goes on the mound.
Okay, then who will emerge as the number 2 option with an ERA of 4? If that's what you're telling yourself. And let's assume the other guys are 4.5, 5. Just who's the most likely?
Most likely is Nate Pearson. Nate Pearson to me. The question remains, though, when is he going to start throwing? Right? Is he going to emerge as the number 2 starter in May, June, July? It depends when he gets throwing. He's not even throwing bullpen sessions right now. So to me, yeah, eventually becomes Nate Pearson, but that might be 3-4 months from now.
Well, I guess we'll have to see about that one. It's that's a kind of a wild card choice with Nate Pearson, because you're right, with his injury history already, it remains to be seen what he'll provide for the team. Moving on, though, to the bats. Another question we've been asked is which young star on the team will take the biggest leap into the 2021 season?
I'm going to go with a guy that you might think, okay, hasn't he already kind of taken a leap? He's been in the Blue Jays a couple of years, but to me it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's hitting the ball harder and higher in spring, which was a big concern for him so far in the majors, hitting a lot of ground balls, hitting it hard, but a lot of ground balls, not getting the ball elevated, not getting those home run numbers. So I think this year he's trimmed down. He looks more fit. I think he's more comfortable at first. I know it's coming into his third year really with the Jays. He's still only 22 years old. So I would pick Vladdy as the breakout star who's going to probably hit north of 30 home runs, driving close to 100. And I think we'll see some better defense from him this year.
And I completely agree. Folks, we have the exact same pick. I'm going with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as well. He's had a fantastic spring. He's definitely, to Mike's point, he's slimmed down. I think he can hit maybe not 30 home runs, but I can see him hitting 25 plus home runs. I can see him hitting a lot of doubles, though. I think he has the potential to hit 45 or 50 doubles. He hits a lot of line drive balls. I think the move to him playing at first base will be better for him now and into the future. And hitting north of 400 in the springtime, I think he's going to take his game to a whole new level. So I agree. The last question we're going to address with the Blue Jays right now is who's the most likely to be the biggest bust and probably off the team by mid-season or end of the season, whatever that could happen. And for me, it's got to be Tanner Work. I mean, my God, he's just awful. Probably a very nice guy, but man, signed a 2-year, $24 million deal last season, had an ERA of over 6.5. I swear the guy leaves everything hanging over the plate. It's almost like batting practice out there for the opposing team. And I know the Jays are really thin right now with their starting depth right now, so he'll probably be on the team for a little while by default. But man, oh man, he's got to turn things around, and I just don't see it happening. I hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't see it, and I think they're going to try something, whether if it's trading him or releasing him or just ride him out to the end of the year or send him down the bullpen. I don't know what they'll do, but oh my gosh, this man doesn't belong in the majors.
And that was my pick as well. He hasn't really pitched that well since 2017 season with Washington. He got a decent sized contract from them. Last couple of years of that deal, he was awful. The Jays were hoping maybe he could resurrect his career. He's a tank engine out there. He'll throw you 200 innings. Just saying that doesn't mean anything anymore. He can throw 200 innings and still have a whip over like 1.4. That's nothing to write home about. If I were to pick a position player, someone that may not make it past half the year, I'm going to go and say Randall Grichuk. I think he starts the year like he starts every year, slumping. I know his numbers look better last year. Again, 60-game season. Players get hot. His OBP was still barely over 320, so really not that impressive. I think he struggles to hit again this year. I think now he's kind of that fourth fringe outfielder kind of guy.
Yep.
I know there's a couple of years left on his deal, and he was owed a decent chunk of change, but I think Teoscar and Lourdes established themselves in that outfield with obviously Springer. And then I think a guy like Jonathan Davis sticks around as that fourth outfielder, more speed, more versatile. So I think Grichuk's off the team mid-season.
It's hard to say because Grichuk, yes, he's not a good hitter, and especially over the course of 162 games, it remains to be seen what he can do. He plays well in the outfield though, and Teoscar Hernandez, great bat.
Yeah, you're right. Hernandez is
so it's hard to say. I think it's about what management, what do they prefer, defense or offense? That's what I see in that one.
Yeah, Hernandez is an absolute gong show in the outfield. He's been lost on several plays. He's not quite Derek Fisher where he's getting hit in the face with the ball, but not the greatest defensively. You're right. So again, they have to make that decision. Do we lean more on Grichuk's defense and maybe bring him in as that late inning substitution kind of guy, right? So again, there's some questions there for sure. We're going to switch our attention. So there's a lot of baseball talk, but again, it's really exciting to be a Blue Jays fan right now. We're going to focus on the NFL. Okay? And we're going to focus specifically on an NFC team.
Yeah, we're going to be addressing what the San Francisco 49ers are doing. They made an impact trade on ahead of the draft, moving up from the number 12 overall pick to the number 3 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft, which is loaded with quarterbacks, especially on the top end. And the question is, what is the future of Jimmy Garoppolo?
It's a complex situation, right? You mentioned that trade just kind of out of nowhere. It's like, what? How many draft picks are involved? What's going on? Who's going where? What number? Like, it was insane. So I don't really quite get the trade. From San Francisco's point of view, I know they're moving up, and you have to figure they're going quarterback at that spot. But then Kyle Shanahan comes out, John Lynch come out and say, Garoppolo's our best chance at winning. This year, we still have that elite defense who's coming back. They're going to be healthy again, hopefully this year. He's their best chance to win right now. And I agree. I think he is their best chance to win right now. But do you waste that trade moving up to draft like one of these top QBs? And then, what do you do with Garoppolo after this year? Is it like, we got one more year with you, take a run at it. And if it doesn't work out, then you're gone after the year. And then we start our new QB? Well,
and that's the thing. If they're saying Jimmy G is the guy that they want to go with into the season, then why would you give up a 2022 first round pick, a 2023 first round pick? I think another third round pick was thrown in there, and the number 12 pick. So wait a minute. If you're giving up your first round pick the next 3 years, you think they must be taking a quarterback, right?
Franchise quarterback, yeah, for sure.
And, all the mock drafts out there, Trevor Lawrence going number 1. There's no doubt about that. The Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jets are probably going to take one of either Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. And then one or the other will fall into the laps of the 49ers. And you think they traded up to that position to take a defensive tackle or a wide receiver?
No.
Not a chance.
There's no chance.
So here's my thing. Jimmy Garoppolo, yeah, he's been injury prone the last couple of years. I get that. But did you know the man is 24-8 as a starter? He wins. He wins football games. So are they concerned about his injury history? Is that the thing? Or is it his play? I just don't know what they're thinking here, because that's quite a substantial trade to do. You're really mortgaging the future on that one.
Yeah, like you mentioned, if they're not going QB, is there someone out there in that top 5 in the draft, non-QBs, that they really are coveting? Right? Like, I can't see, like you said, drafting a defensive player to put with that defense. That defense established. They're a bunch of veterans. They know how to play. So I gotta think they're going QB, but they're just contradicting themselves by saying Jimmy G's our guy. We trust him. He wins games for us. That's a confusing situation, and it's going to get more interesting in the next coming weeks.
Look, do you think Bill Belichick might be going after him? That's the guy he originally wanted to go with to replace Tom Brady.
Yeah, and he's been linked to New England. He's been linked to his hometown of Chicago. Nothing Belichick and Kraft do surprise me. So, yeah, I could totally see a trade still happening, getting Jimmy G back in New England. I know he's going to replace your boy Cam Newton that you speak so highly of. Yeah, I see it as a possibility going back to Gillette Stadium.
Well, if that happens, that might help my case of the New England Patriots winning 10 games, like I said. And, with the announcement of a 17th game out of the schedule, I think that just further helped my odds of the New England Patriots winning 10 games. So
that'll be a conversation for another day. Those terms.
Oh, well, you know what? We'll see. We'll talk about it as we get deeper into the summer. Going back to baseball, I know, again, we started off the show with the Blue Jays. We're going to go back to the Jays, but specifically now we're going to take a look at the AL East. Mike and I are going to give our official predictions on where the Blue Jays stand in the AL East. And I'll start off by saying I have the Blue Jays finishing second in the AL East. Not third, second. I thought about this for a long time, and I think they can just edge the Tampa Bay Rays for second place in the AL East, with the New York Yankees finishing first. And why? The Tampa Bay Rays lost Blake Snell in the trade, and I think that's going to hurt them. I know Tampa's been historically well with amazing pitching depth for years and years and years, and they've tormented the Blue Jays for years. You and I both know that. They just seem to... They win. It seems like every series they play, particularly in Tampa Bay, Tampa wins 2 out of 3 or gets a sweep. It just seems like that every year. It doesn't matter who's wearing the uniform. But I think it's finally going to buck the trend and go the other direction. So I do think the Blue Jays will finish second. The New York Yankees have got a powerful lineup with Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton, and plus a Garrett Cole leading the way with the starting rotation. I think it'll be too much for them to overcome the Yankees. The Boston Red Sox, yes, they got Alex Cora back as manager, but we don't know if they're rebuilding or reshuffling, or we don't really know what they're doing. They were sort of status quo, and the Baltimore Orioles are just a complete mess. I'm not even going to waste my time talking about that team. So I have the Blue Jays finishing second in the AL East.
So I'm going to go off your points there and flip Tampa and Toronto in that division. For some reasons you mentioned, the Jays do not win at the Trop. It does not happen. They find ways to lose. I think Tampa still has enough veteran guys on their roster with that playoff experience to still finish ahead of the Jays, second in the division. So I have the Jays third. I know I said about 86 wins last episode. I'm bumping that down to about 83. And why? Because they lost Kirby Yates for the year. Kirby Yates was signed to a one-year deal. He was coming off some unreal numbers, led the NL in saves in 2019 with 41. They brought him in. I really thought he was going to bolster that back end of the bullpen. Now, to me, that bullpen took a big hit. They look very weak. Again, guys had great years last year, but again, in 13, 14, 15 innings. Yeah, Rafael Dolis looked great coming back to the majors for the first time in 8 years. Right? Jordan Romano looked great. A lot of heat. Explosive out of the bullpen there. Even Julian Merriweather finally made an appearance, throwing high 90s, looked good at times. But these guys aren't proven relievers. I look at a guy like Dolis. In the AL East, batters are going to start to get to know you a little bit better. Right? You were a flash in the pan last year. Can you keep that consistent over a full season? So I think the bullpen's weak. I think they're going to be a lot of blown saves this year, unfortunately. I'm not comfortable with the bullpen the way it looks right now. I know like David Phelps is a nice addition, bringing him back, a veteran. But as a whole, I'm not comfortable with that bullpen. So I've got them third in the East. I do have the Yankees first, again, with that explosive offense and really high upside at the start of that rotation. You mentioned anchored by Garrett Cole. So you got the Yankees at about, that 95, 97 win range. I got Tampa in about the high 80s. I have the Jays now about 83, maybe 84. Boston, like you said, I think can still finish around 500. They still do have a couple nice pieces. Obviously, Chris Sale, if he can stay healthy, is a big plus to that team. And then Baltimore, you're right. Why waste our breaths? They passed up on a guy like Austin Martin that the Jays took at number 5 because they wanted to save money in their certain slots that they drafted in.
Yeah, I understand.
I know they got a guy like Adley Rutschman that drafted a couple years ago. He's going to be a great player, I think. But too many holes in that lineup still. They are really young. Chris Davis still getting paid by those guys.
Yeah, $20 million, I think. And he hit, 160 last year? Something along those lines?
He hasn't been relevant in probably 5 years.
Yeah. So going back to your point, why I have the Jays finishing second is I just think that offense can do enough to overcome the lack of pitching. I think their offense...
Yeah, I agree there. I think they're going to have to win a lot of 10-9 games this year.
Yeah.
10-8 games.
10-9,
so
8-7.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, yes, we're Jays homers fans like we are, but we're realistic too. I think the Yankees are just going to run away with the AL East. I don't even think it's going to be close. However, I think the Jays can be competing for that wild card spot. So for playoff predictions, even though I said I had the Jays finishing second in the AL East, I think they're going to fall just short of getting that second wild card spot. I dissected it, and I just think they're just going to miss out. If it was the playoff format last year, where you had 8 teams making it, no problem. I think they're a shoo-in. But now it's only back to 5, the 3 division winners and 2 wild cards. I think they're going to fall just short. So with playoff predictions, we've made World Series predictions. I'll begin here. I think we're going to flash back to 1998 all over again. I think we're going to see the New York Yankees and the San Diego Padres. And why? San Diego Padres pitching is nasty. Their starting rotation depth, they just acquired Blake Snell. Speaking of Blake Snell, from the Tampa Bay Rays, to go along with Dinelson Lamet and just the crew there. I like the moves they made. They got Yu Darvish as well, and their pitching just looks nasty. And they've already got an impressive lineup. And I know a lot of people want to pick the LA Dodgers, but I just baseball's a funny game. Baseball's one of those games where it's not like the NBA in which just the number 1, number 2 seeds make it all the way to the finals. Sometimes you just have to get into the dance and then just get hot at the right time. And I think the San Diego Padres are going to get there. I do have the New York Yankees winning, though, in 6 games.
I got the Yankees from the East, and I can see your point about San Diego to the West. They're an up-and-coming team. That rotation is pretty strong. I'm going to go with the Yankees against the... No, it's not the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's the Atlanta Braves.
Really?
I think Mr. Anthopoulos gets there. Again, the rotation, not as strong as the Dodgers, or as you mentioned, as a Padres team. But I think the offense has the most pure talent in the entire West, right? I look at these guys top to bottom. You got obviously one of the top players in the league, Ronald Acuna Jr. You got Marcell Ozuna still there. You've got Freddie Freeman. All the guy does is hit. Right? So I think that offense is just the most explosive. And I think they're going to go and face the Yankees in the World Series. I see the Yankees winning as well. I'm going to go 7 games. I think it's a really good series. But that's my early World Series prediction, Atlanta and New York.
It'd be definitely bittersweet, to have Alex Anthopoulos there at the World Series. Like, I'll be honest, I'd be happy, but be kind of sad too, right? It's kind of one of those bittersweet things, right?
Yeah, you obviously feel amazing for the guy if he were to make it, right? He did a lot of good things for the Jays. I just think the results weren't there right away. There's a lot of knocks on him for trading away too much of the farm. Noah Syndergaard, players that come to mind. But I think he still did a lot of good for the Jays. Got the playoffs back here for the first time in over 20 years. So, yeah, you're right. It's bittersweet for everything he did in Toronto and, just finding success later on. But, I still root for him for sure.
Well, folks, the season gets started this week, and feel free to reach out to us in the YouTube comments, whether if you agree or disagree with us on our picks. Until then, we'll see you next time.